friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. All this week we've been talking about universal basic happiness. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Phil. How are you?
Well, I am super fantastic. Happy Friday. How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great, and this has been an interesting week, and hey, universal basic superpowers. That's
basic superpowers. This has been just a week of fan service for listeners to this show, right? First Wednesday we did a sex show. Now Friday, finally here, we're finally going to tell everybody what we think of Avengers Infinity War, which I'm sure everyone's been on the edge of their chairs trying to decide whether they like the movie or not, basically, waiting for us to tell them. But I thought it would be fun to kind of dovetail talking about that movie with wrapping up our discussion of universal basic happiness. And I have called tonight's show Universal Basic Superpowers. I ended last time. We talked about universal basic sex and universal basic happiness and universal basic reality. And I said that virtual reality might push us in the direction of solving the problems of these various inequalities, but it might not be the thing that ultimately gets there. It's a subset of a bigger picture. And of course, that bigger picture is something we talk about all the time, and that is the idea of a post-scarcity world, a world where basically the limits have been removed. I think VR plays a big role in that world, but it's not the only technology. For years, I've been saying that our future as humans is to become sexy immortal billionaires with superpowers, right? That's what we want to become, right? Whether that's happening in VR or whether it's happening more or less in the actual meat space around us, that's what we're striving for. Beings like that should be happy. And, one of the things you pointed out over the years is a piece that seems to be missing from that formula, sexy immortal billionaires with superpowers, is good, right? We need to be good people who are sexy and immortal and billionaires with superpowers. But
you could be all those things, Phil, the sexy immortal billionaire with superpowers, and be Lex Luthor.
Arguably, Loki, right, falls into that category, right? I think there are a lot of women who would say that's what Loki's like. So Thor, on the other hand, right, also falls into that category. So you want to be a good person in addition to having achieved that state. But really, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about letting technology move us in a direction where it doesn't matter where some of these differences, some of these bad breaks that we kind of get as humans throughout our lives get made up for. We're not all rich currently. But in the future, I think anybody who wants to be, if not rich, anyone who wants to live the life of a rich person will have the opportunity to do that. I think that in the future, we'll all be as good looking as we want to be, right? We'll all be as charming as we want to be. So if there is a companionship or romance or sex deficit in the world, it won't be due to that, right? It won't be due to the fact that you drew a bad hand in the genetic lottery, right? That will be something that can be overcome. It doesn't guarantee that everybody's going to be happy necessarily. But I think there will be other pieces of the post-scarcity puzzle, other pieces of the transhumanist puzzle that will slot into place and that will address those. But ultimately, I think we got to look for a combination of virtual reality, a combination of nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, all these technologies working together to give us just a really different kind of reality than the world we live in before. And the big difference is the limitations that we currently experience, the scarcities that have plagued us throughout all of our history no longer really come into play. Once you take those out, then I think you've really done away with the inequality problem. Even if you've got some people who are trillionaires and some who are billionaires, you could say, well, there's massive income inequality there, but I'd take it, right? If I could move ahead a century and live in the world where I'm a billionaire to somebody else's trillionaire, I think I'd be okay with that. Personally, I don't know. How about you, Stephen? Maybe not. You got to be the trillionaire, right?
I think there is something to be said of the keeping up with the Joneses problem. I mean,
yeah.
There's always this thing. Yeah, we're doing so much better than we did 10 years ago, but still, everyone else has this and we don't.
If it comes down to the fact that you're a trillionaire and I'm a billionaire, and you don't get to buy anything I can't buy. Right? You don't get to experience anything I don't get. You know what I'm saying? It's like we might reach a point where effectively it doesn't make that big a difference. Now, there still may be dissatisfaction around status, around reputation, around, we've talked about how in a post-scarcity world the economy might function in a completely different way. So people may still find ways to compete and still find ways to be motivated, but I think the gross inequalities that we face today will become a thing of the past. They will no longer haunt us in the way they currently do. I mean, especially when you have the inequality between people who have enough to eat and those who don't, that kind of stuff, right? That all gets taken care of. That stuff we definitely do away with. And then we get the superpowers. Basically, we become the Avengers. I think that this whole philosophy is in play in the movie Infinity War. So from here on in, we're going to be talking about the movie, and we're not stopping at some point and saying spoilers ahead. Spoilers are ahead from here on in. Are you with me on that, Stephen? We're just when we talk about movies, we spoil them, right? So,
yeah.
So here's what I think is going on in Avengers Infinity War, okay? Basically, Tony Stark and the Avengers generally, they're transhumanists, right? And they're actually working towards a world of abundance. Tony has worked on free energy and things like that, right? And he's worked on this technology that makes us smarter and makes us better and brings all these benefits to the world. Thanos is a Malthusian, and he is out to kill half of all the living things in the universe. Maybe you can explain it, Stephen. What's his goal there?
Thanos is from a world that apparently the population outstripped the ability of the world to support it. And whether Thanos did it himself, it's a little unclear, but the population crashed on this planet, and very few of Thanos's race is left in the universe, apparently. And from that terrible thing, he got this idea that, you know what, it is a kindness to wipe out half the universe rather than everybody starved to death.
Right. We live in a finite universe. Resources are limited, so he goes around planet to planet killing half of the people on every planet, basically. So he's like a radical conservationist.
He's an eco-terrorist or whatever you could, I guess you consider him, but really he's a Malthusian, as you said, and he's a Malthusian that he says has the courage of his convictions, right? I suspect that there are actually people, Phil, that are seeing this film and very much buying into some of these arguments that Thanos makes. I do not, and I suspect you don't either, but I suspect there are those who do.
Well, it's one thing if you believe that the resources on the planet just can't handle it and we should have fewer children and the population shouldn't grow. Okay. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not sure that that's a huge concern. I'm not sure that it's something that we have to get all excised about. But you can legitimately believe that, right? Thanos adds that he's a psychotic. He's going to solve the problem by actually wiping out populations. I haven't met too many people who go that far, right? Who actually, although you will hear some kind of anti-human rhetoric that does trend almost in that direction, almost in that kind of, well, humanity's a plague on the planet, we're like locusts, it'd be better off without us. You hear that kind of stuff and you think, okay, well, you know, that's kind of what Thanos is thinking. But that's wrong, and it's so ridiculously wrong. So he has assembled this gauntlet, and he has these Infinity Stones, which you've been watching. If you've been following the other 19 movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know that these are these powerful gems we learned from the creation of the universe. And if you get them all together, you can wield basically infinite power, it seems. I mean, he can do just about anything he wants to do. Once he has the Reality Stone, I notice he can create any subjective reality. So it's like we were talking about virtual reality in the holodeck. He can make people appear who aren't there, and he's physically altering the universe to make anything happen. So it's like, well, dude, why don't you just alter the universe so everybody's happy and they don't want to have kids? Right? And then they won't have as many kids in the population. You know, you don't actually have to murder people, right?
It's like the thought of birth control never crossed the man's mind, right?
He could have sterilized half the population, right? I mean, there's not that I'm saying I want him to do those things, but I'm saying there are a lot of great ideas for saving resources in the world that don't involve murdering, you know, half the population of the universe. So he's just plain psychopath, but his mindset is a scarcity-based mindset. It never occurred to him, we'll just digitize everybody. They'll take up a lot less resources, and then I'll slowly educate them that we don't want to become that big, right? We don't want to use up all those resources. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, obviously, for half the universe, because at one point they say trillions of lives, but I think that's a low-end estimate, huh? I mean,
If we're talking about an actual galaxy full of...
No, we're talking about the universe, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
He's wiping out half of everybody in the universe. So that is a number I bet they don't even have a word for, okay? That's way up there in the octillions or quintillions or, I don't know. Googleplexes, yeah. I mean, he killed a lot of living beings in his one fell swoop. And I think that there were post-scarcity, abundance-minded solutions to that. This guy needs to read some Peter Diamandis, okay? He needs to listen to this show. I feel like if we could have sat down with Thanos and had a talk with him, a lot of really unfortunate stuff could have been avoided. So my last word on universal basic happiness is bring on the post-scarcity and we'll have the universal basic happiness. Now, what did you think of Infinity War?
I liked it a lot. And now, as far as how it would fall, if I put all 19 movies together, and it's 19, not 20. I misspoke a week or two ago saying that this was the 20th. No, this is the 19th.
The 19th. Okay.
Okay. So I don't know where it would fall just yet. I have a feeling that this is very much the Empire Strikes Back.
Well, they're sure going for that. Yeah,
of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the low point, right? That they come back and they give us a celebratory Return of the Jedi kind of follow-up movie too. Hopefully,
right?
That's what we all want. And so I think once we have that movie, and we see where in the story this particular movie falls, I think it's going to be considered by many to be one of the top 2 or 3 movies in the entire run. I say that with Winter Soldier is, if not my favorite movie, it's of all movies. It's, I say that as a big fan of the entire run of movies. It's probably going to be considered to be one of the best. I think a lot of people left the theater after this movie going, what the heck just happened?
Right. Well, it ends in a very interesting place, for sure. I mean, it's like, okay, well, they're all dead. The end. And then you get a little post-credit, but Captain Marvel's going to come save the day. So that's like, okay, I guess I feel hopeful about that a little bit, but that is a very something I heard the Red Letter Media guys say. Empire Strikes Back ends on a bittersweet note. This is almost a pure bitter note, right? I mean, this is really awful. This is the low point of the history of the universe. Now, there's something going on here. I mean, my personal theory is that we can talk fan theories, right? This is our show. We can do anything we want. Obviously, Doctor Strange gave Thanos the jewel because he knew that was the one out of 14 million paths that somehow allowed Tony Stark to set everything right. And the whole universe is obviously going to be set right because there's going to be another Spider-Man movie. There's going to be another Guardians of the Galaxy movie, right? These people aren't really dead. They're comic book dead, right? I mean, clearly. Right. Although it felt pretty dead.
One of the sadder things was seeing Peter Parker fade away because unlike most everybody else, he knew it was coming. His spider sense was on, and he knew what was happening to himself, unlike everybody else that it happened to. So that was genuinely sad and moving.
It was. It was very sad. It was really well done. The having people fade away. I was very impressed by that. And the other deaths. I was even kind of sad about Loki. And no one should shed a tear for Loki. He's a terrible person. But when he actually showed some good qualities and then died kind of bravely there, apparently, for all we know. That was really sad.
It's always Loki, so there's always a chance it was a trick. But I feel like some of these deaths, Loki, Gamora, I think they're permanent in the MCU.
Well, if so, then the saddest by far is Gamora. In fact, her whole arc as a character is just so sad. You watch that movie and go, oh, what a horrible life. What a sad life. And one of the things that was really good about that movie, as we've talked about this before, is sometimes the villains aren't everything they could be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thanos is a really interesting bad guy. And he thinks he's a good guy, which makes him even more dangerous. And the fact that he had this relationship with his daughter, the fact that he's actually sad when he murders his daughter, right? I mean, it adds some texture to it. And I really want him dead in a big way. So I am looking forward to the movie next year.
That's the time that they've done their job, as when you want the bad guy gone, he's got to go. Then,
well, I liked it at the very beginning when Hulk was just wailing on him. When Hulk just jumps in and then he dispatches with Hulk fairly fairly rapidly. But those first few minutes of when he was just pounding on it, it was like, oh, this is going to be a short movie, right? Hulk's got it, right? No problem. Of course, that didn't
of course,
work out.
the Thanos' sidekick or whatever says, "Oh, let Thanos have his fun." Oh, crap.
Yeah, at that point, didn't look like he was having much fun, but that's the direction it went. Okay, well, I would generally, I think it was a good movie. I think that these two movies, they probably could have made 3 out of it, and I'm not a person who says that, right? That they should make more, but this almost feels like this could have been a trilogy.
It was a very full movie. There was a lot.
Yeah, there's an awful lot going on, but I didn't feel like they could have cut anything out. I love that they spent time with Peter Dinklage, this giant dwarf, and Thor's trying to make a new hammer. I mean, all those little side things that were going on were all really interesting and really fun to watch and really comic bookish. And it's not often that I'll see a movie that lasts that long, and I'm like, I could have watched more of that. You know, I could have seen some more of that.
It was a 2-hour, 40-minute movie, making it by far the longest of the cinematic universe movies, and it didn't feel all that long.
Unless you have to pee, then it really feels long. That's the only thing. But.
Well, how could you not? I mean, 2 hours and 40 minutes. My God.
Well, believe me, at my age, it's an issue. Yeah.
I come back and they say, "Hey, Miss Red Skull." Oh.
All right. Well, we're running long. We're gonna have to wrap it.
Yeah.
But final thoughts. Post-scarcity good. Thanos and Malthusianism bad. Also, Spider-Man's got to lose the Iron Man suit. That's wrong. When they bring him back, he needs to be Spider-Man. Those legs, those spider legs, he looked like Dr. Octopus. What the hell is up with that? I did not care for that. I want him to be Spider-Man. We've already got an Iron Man. We don't need 2 Iron Men. That's my one kind of total nerd critique of the movie. If I was gonna have a problem
you
with
realize, of course, that particular suit was introduced first in the comics, and I think it was Peter himself that decided to go back to his regular suit. It felt right to be just depending upon his own powers rather than the suit.
I have not read those comics, but I'm sure that a lot of readers felt exactly as I do. So, right, because wouldn't that kind of creep you out when you have those like spider legs coming out of him?
It was pretty. When the legs came out, I go, "Oh yeah, cool, straight from the comics." I'd seen that before, you know.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm that big of a nerd, and I was not shocked to see that at all. So.
Okay, fair enough. So the spider legs work for you, but I'm glad to hear, and that's a big spoiler, that he definitely will go back to being regular Spider-Man without the.
Oh, definitely, yeah. He'll be back in his normal suit for the next Spider-Man movie for sure. He'll be existing. Number 1, and number 2,
he'll be alive, yes, and he'll be Spider-Man.
That's right. That's right. No Iron.
Well, we got that to look forward to. All right. Well, great talking with you, Stephen. I think we've solved the problem of universal basic happiness. We've done a film review. We got a good weekend. We powered through. We got a good weekend, so it's been great talking to you. It's been great having you all with us. We are going to be back next week with 3 brand new shows. Look forward to talking with you all then. And until next time, live to see it.